Story 1. Andrei Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov, Soviet Union. In the late 1972 Soviet Union, deep within the cold gray forests surrounding the city of Rostov, rumors began to spread of mutilated bodies found in the woods. At first, police believed they were dealing with a few isolated murders. They had no idea that a monster lived among them disguised as a teacher, a father, a model citizen. His name was Andrei Chikatilo, a name that would one day make all of Russia shudder. A tall, thin man, with glasses and a soft-spoken manner. No one could have guessed that behind that pale, quiet face hid one of the most sadistic serial killers in Soviet history, a man who slaughtered over 50 victims across 12 years. Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo was born in 1936 during one of the darkest periods in Russian history: famine, war, and horror. He grew up in rural Ukraine, where starvation drove people to madness. His mother once told him that his older brother had been kidnapped and eaten by neighbors, a story that scarred the boy's mind forever. As an adult, Chikatilo tried to live a normal life. He became a school teacher, got married, had 2 children. But beneath the surface, he was tormented by impotence, unable to find sexual fulfillment through human intimacy. Then he made a horrifying discovery. Only fear and blood could make him feel alive. In 1978, a 9-year-old girl went missing near Rostov. Her body was found mutilated, her abdomen slashed open, her eyes gouged out, her clothes torn apart. No one suspected that her killer was Andrei Chikatilo. Then came more victims. Women, children, anyone walking alone at train stations, bus stops, or forest paths could become prey. He would approach softly. "Where are you going, little one? Let me show you the way." Once the victim relaxed, he lured them into the forest, and the nightmare began. What followed was unspeakable. He stabbed his victims dozens of times, slashed their throats, and tore at their flesh with his bare hands. Sometimes he cut off body parts, even kept them in his coat pocket as trophies. And after each killing, he went home, ate dinner with his wife and children, as if nothing had happened. For nearly a decade, Soviet police were powerless. They arrested the wrong men, tortured false confessions, even executed an innocent person. Meanwhile, Chikatilo was still out there, killing again and again. When the media began calling him the Rostov Ripper, panic spread through the nation. Parents forbade their children from leaving home after dark. In November 1990, after months of surveillance, a young investigator named Viktor Burakov caught Chikatilo near a railway station, acting suspiciously around a child. During interrogation, Chikatilo smiled a hollow, lifeless grin. At first, he denied everything. But when confronted with DNA evidence, he laughed and said, "How many do you want? 30? 40? 50? I've lost count." He described each murder in chilling detail. Every forest, every ditch, every victim, as if recalling items in a personal collection. The investigators realized, horrified, that Chikatilo didn't kill out of hatred or greed. He killed for pleasure. He described the act of stabbing as relief. "When the knife goes in," he said, "I feel alive." At his 1992 trial, Chikatilo appeared inside a steel cage, laughing, winking at reporters, screaming at the judge. When the death sentence was announced, he spoke slowly. "I am nature's mistake, a defect you will never understand." On the 14th of February 1994, Andrei Chikatilo was executed, a single bullet to the head. No one mourned him. But even after his death, locals in Rostov claimed that when you walk through those forests where the bodies were found, you can still hear children's voices calling for their mothers in the wind. Andrei Chikatilo didn't just kill people. He murdered the illusion that evil can be recognized by a face. And that's what makes him the true monster of the 20th century. Story 2. Albert Fish, the Gray Man, United States. Early 20th century, New York City, where the lights never sleep, and even the brightest glow can't chase away the darkness. In the damp, shadowed streets, among the smoke and the noise, wandered an old man who looked harmless, polite, soft-spoken, always smiling at children. He called himself Albert Fish. People later knew him as the Gray Man. A man so ordinary, he disappeared in a crowd, yet he carried a horror that would haunt generations. A human shell hiding a demon. Albert Fish was born in 1870 into a family consumed by madness and violence. His father died early, his mother worked as a seamstress, and nearly all his relatives were later diagnosed with severe mental illness. At age 5, Fish was sent to an orphanage, where he first learned that pain could bring pleasure. Every time the whip struck his back, Albert didn't cry. He laughed. And from that moment on, pain became his form of happiness. As he grew up, he seemed normal, disturbingly normal. He married, had 6 children, worked odd jobs, and read the Bible every night. But inside his mind, he heard voices, messages from God, commanding him to act. Those voices turned him into a predator. By 1924, Fish began stalking children. He offered them candy, told jokes, promised little adventures. None of them ever came home. Then came the case that shook America. In 1928, the Budd family, a poor household in Manhattan, received a visitor, an elderly man introducing himself as Mr. Howard. He said he wanted to hire their 8-year-old son for farm work. He was polite, well-dressed, even charming enough to be invited to lunch. During the meal, his eyes fell upon Grace Budd, their 0-year-old daughter. The next day, Mr. Howard returned, claiming he was attending a birthday party for his niece, and invited Grace to come along. She wore her favorite white dress, smiled, and left with him. That was the last time her family saw her alive. 2 years passed. No trace, no body. Then, in 1930, Grace's mother received a letter. A long, rambling, handwritten letter describing in excruciating detail how Fish had taken Grace to an abandoned house, killed her, and eaten her flesh. He described roasting parts of her body, how it tasted sweet. The letter was so horrifying that the police who read it wept in silence. Investigators traced the envelope to a boarding house. On the 13th of December, 1934, police surrounded the room where Albert Fish was staying. When they asked his name, he simply smiled and whispered, "I knew you'd come. God told me so." During interrogation, Fish showed no fear, only pride. He described every act calmly, as if recounting scripture. Police later discovered he had sent similar letters to other families, bragging about his blood purification rituals. When doctors examined him, they found over 30 needles embedded in his abdomen and pelvis, self-inflicted. Fish claimed he did it to punish his sins. One psychiatrist later said, "His body is a map of pain and his mind a labyrinth of evil." The deeper the police dug, the worse it became. He had lured orphans from the streets, tortured them for days, then killed them. Only 3 murders were ever proven, but experts believe the true number may be dozens. When asked why, Fish replied, "I only did what God told me." He said to sacrifice the little angels so that I could be forgiven. In 1935, Albert Fish was sentenced to death by the electric chair. When the warden asked if he was afraid, Fish smiled faintly and said, "No, I'm looking forward to it. It will be the biggest thrill of my life." When the switch was pulled, sparks lit the room. The chair shook violently. Then, silence. The air filled with the stench of burnt flesh. It was said that one guard resigned that night because he could never forget the smell and the smile still frozen on Albert Fish's face. Story 3. Tsutomu Miyazaki, the Otaku Killer Japan. Tokyo, late 1980 seconds. It was the golden age of Japan, a nation glowing with prosperity, technology, and pop culture. People spoke of the otaku generation, young men obsessed with manga, anime, and video games. But inside one dimly lit room, surrounded by VHS tapes, flickering screens, and the hum of machines, one man was turning that harmless obsession into a living nightmare. His name was Tsutomu Miyazaki, a frail 27-year-old with a stammer, slouched posture, and a nervous smile. No one could have guessed that inside his tiny apartment were thousands of videotapes, and among them, evidence of some of the most horrifying crimes in modern Japanese history. Tsutomu Miyazaki was born in 1962 in the suburbs of Tokyo. He was born with deformed hands, his fingers fused, unable to close properly. Bullied and rejected, he withdrew into a world of fantasy comic books, horror films, and violent pornography. His father, the owner of a small local newspaper, ignored him. His mother feared him. When she died in 1988, something in him broke. He began hearing her voice whispering in his mind, "Free the little souls trapped in this world." In August 1988, in Saitama Prefecture, 4-year-old Mari Kano vanished while playing outside her home. Days later, her remains were found dismembered, burned, and hidden in the forest. Japan was horrified, but it was only the beginning. Over the next year, 3 more girls, ages 4 to 7, disappeared. Each case bore the same signature: partial cremation, mutilation, and a small item, a shoe, a bag, a toy, left near the scene. A grotesque calling card. While police searched frantically, Miyazaki lived his ordinary life. By day, he worked at a printing shop. By night, he replayed his recordings films of his victims while eating and sleeping beside their remains. He kept bones, fingernails, and clotted blood stored in plastic containers displayed like trophies. When he wasn't killing, he devoured horror manga, gore films, and scribbled in his diary, "Their deaths bring me peace. Mother is watching. She's smiling." After the 4th murder, Miyazaki did the unthinkable. He mailed the ashes and hand bones of one victim to her family, along with a note. "She lives within me, don't cry." That letter plunged Japan into fury and fear. The press dubbed him the Otaku Killer, turning him into a dark symbol of Japan's growing anxiety toward the rising otaku subculture, where fantasy and reality blurred beyond recognition. In July 1989, on a sweltering summer afternoon, Miyazaki approached another girl in a park. A nearby father noticed, intervened, and chased him to his car. Miyazaki fled, leaving his vehicle behind. Inside, police found what would end the hunt. Over 5,000 VHS tapes, pornographic films, violent anime, and dozens of home videos documenting his crimes in horrifying detail. When he was finally arrested, Miyazaki was eerily calm. At the police station, he spoke softly. "I just wanted to keep them with me. I didn't want to kill them, but if they left, I'd be alone again." During his long trial, Japan was deeply divided. Some argued he was insane, but psychologists ruled otherwise. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he enjoyed it. One doctor said, "He wasn't insane, he was simply without humanity." In court, his appearance chilled. Everyone pale face, round glasses, twisted hands. When the death sentence was read, he showed no emotion. He only asked, "Will my mother come to take me home?" Tsutomu Miyazaki was executed by hanging in June 2008. Nearly 20 years after his first crime, Japan still hadn't escaped his shadow. The case forever changed how society viewed otaku culture, with fear and suspicion that linger to this day. In the small room where he was arrested, police found a blood-stained scrap of paper, scrawled in his handwriting. "When I die, I'll live inside the screen." Thank you for staying until the end of this file. If you want to journey deeper into the world's darkest corners with me, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to Dark File, because sometimes truth only speaks in the dark.